There's a lot of people that kind of think they know what's going on. There's a lot of people see what's going on. A lot of people talk about what's going on, but not a lot of people are actually on the front lines making things go on, making things happen. Today's guest has impacted not just me, but millions of people around the world. Those are impacted by his work. And on the other side of it, there's the thousands of innocent lives that he's working to be God's hand to pull them out of the darkest spaces and darkest environments that there could possibly be. I bet as we get into this, a lot of you are going to remember the first time you heard his name, the first time you heard of the movie that was made about his work, and then have you continued to follow, because we're in a world full of distractions and noises and an ongoing crisis, and you kind of move on from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And this is a guy that hasn't stopped chopping the same tree. He hasn't moved on. He is chopping the same tree and is doing what God's called him to do. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm going to hear some stories that are going to blow you away today. Mr. Tim Ballard.
Yay! Welcome back.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. So good to be back with you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, okay, so for our audience to know, where are you standing right now? Because this is a big deal.
I'm in a very sacred place. Behind me is the tomb of the patriarchs. That's the burial place of Abraham and Sarai. And it's a very important place for both Jews and Christians. And we decided to come here just for this podcast.
I love it. I love it. That is amazing.
Raise the bar. I want to just bring people up to speed, and I'd love to have played the trailer here for it, but I'm sure every one of our listeners have seen it at least once, the movie Sound of Freedom, based on your real-life actual work. We were with Jim Caviezel at a showing in Las Vegas before it was distributed. They were still trying to find distribution, and Hollywood was kind of pushing and fighting on that. I remember talking to him, and talk about two impactful things. Mel Gibson told him that playing Christ in The Passion of the Christ, which we just watched over Easter again, would change not only his career, but his life forever. And then he talked about the information he learned about how real the world that you had been operating in was, and how impactful that was on the trajectory of his life, the way that you couldn't unsee it. And there's more that he saw and more he became aware of than was even in the film. I just want to commend you for everything that you've done as being a part of all that. And I think there's a sequel coming out that's going to be coming up in the future. And then they've even made a kind of, because some people are like, well, that's fictional. It's a person, it's an actor. It's Hollywooded up. And then you've actually gone with cameras, and they made like, okay, let's just take the cameras. We'll show you what we're doing. And that's coming out soon. So catch people up on your work that's happened post Sound of Freedom. Bring them up to speed here.
Yeah, so you alluded to a very significant thing that happened. 5 years, Sound of Freedom sat on the shelf. Disney had it. Everyone turned it down. We don't know what was going on, other than the devil did not want the world to see this film. Yep. It broke out because one brave studio that brought you The Chosen, Angel Studios, took it on. 100 million people saw that movie, more than that now.
Wow.
And the elites couldn't stop that from happening, so then they took aim at me and my family. They came down on me. People inside the LDS church started it. They had a lot to cover up, and that's coming out. Check out Backfire, the excommunication story of Tim Ballard. They excommunicated me from the church with nothing, no trial, no evidence. They just defamed me. You wouldn't believe what these people did. And then they provided cover for all the traffickers, the bad guys, to come in with their lawfare. It was a coordinated hit. They came out with Vice News, pro-pedophile, anti-Christian news outlet owned by George Soros. People inside the LDS church, the PR department, lied to them about me, and started this wave of just absolute evil collusion against the fight against child trafficking. But we would not stop. We would not stop. And one of the reasons we know we won is because what they didn't want you to see, they didn't want you to see Sound of Freedom. But to your point, at least with Sound of Freedom, they had an excuse, a fake excuse. Ballard's not Caviezel. Caviezel's not Ballard. It's all fake. It was based on a true story. But fine, let us show you something very real that's doing just as well as Sound of Freedom in certain markets. It's called Hidden War. It comes out in about a week or two. Angel Studios, again, putting it out. It's a docu-film. It documents a huge rescue operation, probably the biggest one I've ever led